Hi, everyone, and welcome to Terrestrial Biomes, which is APES topic 1.2. So here is our goals. Remember, we're talking about ecosystems are the result of biotic and abiotic interactions. Our objective for today is to describe the global distribution and principal environmental aspects of terrestrial biomes. And the essential knowledge we need to take away from this lesson is that a biome contains characteristic communities of plants and animals that result from and are adapted to its climate. Major terrestrial biomes include the taiga, temperate rainforest, temperate seasonal forest, sometimes called temperate deciduous, tropical rainforest, shrubland, temperate grassland, savanna, hot desert, and tundra. The global distribution of non-mineral terrestrial natural resources such as water and trees for lumber varies because of some combination of climate, geography, latitude, altitude, nutrient availability, and soil. The the worldwide distribution of biomes is dynamic. The distribution has changed in the past and may again shift as a result of global climate changes. So, what is a biome? A biome is composed of plants and animals that are found in a particular region of the world. Species that live in the biomes must be adapted to survive the conditions there. Weather is short term conditions of the atmosphere in a local area, whereas climate is defined as the average temperature in a given region over a long period of time. Now, a terrestrial or land biome is a geographic region of land categorized by a particular combination of average annual temperature, annual precipitation, the animals and distinctive plant growth forms that live there. Whereas an aquatic or water biome is characterized by a particular combination of salinity, or the percentage of salt or concentration of salt in that area, depth, and water flow. A habitat is an area where a particular species lives in nature, and there can be multiple habitats within a biome. For instance, in the northeastern United States, this particular biome is going to be broken down into habitats of agricultural fields, abandoned fields, young forests with saplings, and mature forests. Biome boundaries can shift as climate changes. They're not set in stone. There have been many major changes in biome boundaries over the course of Earth's history. Biome boundaries depend on plant responses to the temperature and precipitation, because if the plants are affected, meaning that certain populations increase or decrease, that's going to affect animal life in that area as well. This occurred during our most recent ice age, and we can infer this based on the pollen samples found in ice or deep in the mud of lakes that allows us to understand which type of plants were present in the area at that time. Modern day shifting of biomes is heavily influenced by human activity, and we will see that throughout the course of this year. We can see here in this this graphic, that we can monitoring different species of trees from 1960 to 1990, and then we have a projected what it will look like from 2070 to 2100. We can see that certain species begin to move north as the temperature we expect begins to increase. They can begin surviving up there, and we also see that we believe that there will be a loss of certain species over the course of climate change. Now, biomes are often defined by their nutrients that are found there. Plants need soil nutrients to grow, and the availability of nutrients determines which plants can survive in a biome. The amount of decomposition or breaking down dead material into nutrients can affect the nutrient levels in biomes. So if there is a a high rate of decomposition, that means that there's going to be very nutrient-rich soil. But again, there could also be leaching, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If there's a very slow rate of decomposition, the soil tends to be poor in terms of nutrients. So often how we depict the climate of our biomes is by looking at a climograph. So a climograph is a graph that demonstrates over the course of a year, we can see on the x-axis January through December, what occurs in that biome in terms of precipitation and temperature. We can see that there are two different y-axes. We can see that on the left we have population, shown as these blue bars, and sometimes shown as a line, and temperature, which is shown as a red line here. So by analyzing climographs, we can help to identify the biome. And biomes, again, are found throughout the entirety of the world, and they're often affected by many factors that we had just listed before. So another way we can demonstrate or plot this data is showing by comparing annual precipitation to annual temperature. We can begin to also categorize these different biomes. Tropical rainforest, tropical seasonal forest, and subtropical desert tend to have very high temperatures, but if you look at precipitation, tropical rainforest has a lot of precipitation, whereas subtropical desert does not. So these two factors working together help control what type of biome occurs in different parts of the world. So now let's break down these different biomes. Tundra. Cold and treeless biome that has low growing vegetation and a short growing season. Small woody shrubs, mosses, and lichens can be found here. In terms of animals, musk ox, Arctic foxes, polar bear, and in the winter, the soil is completely frozen. Soil thaws in the summer, allowing for some plant growth. It is the northernmost regions of the northern hemisphere in Russia, Canada, Scandinavia, and Alaska. There's also the Antarctic tundra, which is found along the edge of Antarctica and on nearby islands. The alpine tundra is found at the lower latitudes on high mountains where high winds and low temperatures keep trees from growing. Permafrost. This is the key feature of the tundra. Permanently frozen. An impermeable layer of soil prevents water from draining and roots from penetrating. This is why deep-rooted plants don't survive in the tundra. Warming global temperatures are melting the permafrost, which will lead to faster decomposition of dead plants and animals, and this leads to increased greenhouse gases being produced. It also means that other species that previously couldn't survive in this area can begin to move into this area. And again, when you change plant life, you affect animal life. We can see our climate graph here, how the precipitation compares to temperature, the distribution worldwide, as well as just a cross-section of the soil with the permafrost found in the tundra. Taiga, also known as, if you've heard the term, boreal forest. Cold temperature, low precipitation, nutrient-poor soil, found between 50 degrees north and 60 degrees north in Europe, Russia, and North America. Very slow decomposition because it's cold, and it has needle-like leaves that are covered in wax. Sorry, it's a typo. I should say needle. Soils are covered in a thick layer of organic matter, but are very nutrient-poor, which means that it's not good for agriculture. Now, the fauna or animals we could find here would be beavers, brown bears, and wolverines. And the trees tend to be coniferous, meaning they're cone-bearing evergreen trees. They drop a fraction of needles each year. Pine, spruce, and fir would be amongst them. Some deciduous trees do live there, birch, maple, and aspen. But again, mostly we'd see conifers. Plants must tolerate cold winters and short, cool summers, an important source of trees for pulp, paper, and building materials for humans. The threats of the taiga are extensive logging, mining, and the extraction of oil and gas. And we can see the distribution here of average precipitation and temperature, as well as its global distribution. We can see it's much more towards the north. Temperate rainforest. Annual temperature between 5 degrees Celsius and 20 degrees Celsius. Moderate temperature, high precipitation, and nutrient-poor soil. It's a coastal biome. It's only found along the coast. Ocean currents help to moderate the temperature fluctuation, so it doesn't have extremely hot summers and extremely cold winters. It kind of stays more moderate. Mild summers and winters. Very large trees, conifers. We have fir, spruce, cedar, hemlock, and coastal redwoods. If you haven't been to the redwood forest in California, please visit it. It's beautiful. Many of these trees have been logged for lumber and have been replaced by single-species tree plantations. Slow decomposition, but not as slow as the tundra or taiga. Nutrients are rapidly taken up by trees or carried down to the soil by abundant rainfall, and this is what we call leaching. Rainfall coming down, taking the nutrients out of the soil and bringing them further down, putting them out of the access of plants. So leaves the soil nutrient poor, those three different factors. Mosses and ferns can survive in the soil because they don't require as much. We could find black-tailed deer, Pacific giant salamanders, and Pacific tree frogs in this area. Again, we have our climate graph and our global distribution. You notice from the global distribution, only really found along the coast, North America, South America, and Australia. Temperate deciduous forest, aka the temperate seasonal forest. Either term can be used. Warm summers, cold winters with over 1 meter of annual rainfall, annual precipitation, dominated by broadleaf deciduous trees and some coniferous trees. Beech, maple, oak, and hickory. Warm weather favors rapid decomposition. Broad leaves more readily decompose than needle-like leaves. Has higher soil fertility and plant productivity than the taiga, and leads them to becoming converted to agricultural use because of how good the soil was. Especially when colonists moved to the United States, cut down huge swaths of forest for agricultural land, and we've actually regrown much of that. You can see the map here. Shrubland, aka woodland. Hot, dry summers and mild, rainy winters. 12-month growing season, but plant growth is constrained by high temperatures and low precipitation in the summer, and cool temperatures and higher precipitation in the winters. So hot, dry summer also favors wildfires. Plants in this biome are well adapted to fires. Many resprout quickly after a fire. Others produce seeds that only open upon being exposed to the heat of a fire. Low nutrient soil because of leaching by winter rains. Agricultural use. Humans use it for grazing animals and growing drought-tolerant plants like grapes, especially for wine. We can see here the distribution map as well as the climate graph. Temperate grassland, aka the cold desert. Cold, harsh winters and hot, dry summers, which constrains plant growth. Great Plains of North America is a beautiful example of this. Wildfires can be common, brush fires. Plants, short grasses, and non-woody flowering plants. Plants are adapted to wildfires and grazing animals. Tend to have deep roots due to limited rainfall. Not many trees or tall grasses. We call cold deserts or temperate forests have sparser vegetation than short grass prairies. Rapid decomposition due to long growing season, and it leads to a nutrient-rich soil. 98% of tall grass prairies have been converted to agricultural use, while less productive shortgrass prairie is used for growing wheat and grazing cattle. We can see the distribution of these biomes here, as well as our climate graph. Tropical rainforest, typically found along the equator, precipitation occurs frequently. Warm temperatures and abundant precipitation, but leads to rapid decomposition. Lush vegetation takes up nutrients, quickly leaving little nutrients in the soil. Because of this, farmers who grow crops in these areas will need to move to new deforested areas fairly often. Highest biodiversity of species, both plants and animals, and that includes terrestrial or aquatic, that has the highest diversity. And large and small trees can be found here. Again, the rainforest is very much in danger of many species are going extinct because we are cutting down more and more for various reasons, including, like we said before, agriculture. Savanna, the tropical seasonal or / deciduous forest. Warm temperatures and distinct wet and dry seasons. Most precipitation is during the summer. Trees drop their leaves during the dry season to survive drought conditions. Famous examples, acacia and baobab trees. Grazing and fires discourage growth of smaller woody plants. Presence of trees and a warmer average temperature distinguish the savanna from grasslands. Warm temperatures promote decomposition, but low rainfall constrains plants from using the soil nutrients, and therefore the soils are fairly fertile. Large portions have been developed for agricultural use. 99% of the savanna of Pacific Central America and the Atlantic coast of South America has been converted to agricultural use, an insane statistic. As we can see here, we can see those portions on the map, large portion of Africa as well as Southern Asia, Northern Australia. Hot desert, aka the subtropical desert. Hot temperatures, extremely dry conditions, and sparse vegetation. Plants include cacti, euphorbia plants, and succulent plants. To prevent water loss, leaves are small, non-existent, and modified into spines. And the outer layer is thick with few pores for water and air exchange. This allows them to retain more water and lose less to the heat of the environment. Most photosynthesis occurs in the plant stem, which stores water for these species. Annual plants will sprout rapidly during rainfall and live only a few months, reproduce, and then die. Perennial plants live throughout the year. Some show growth during rainfall, but little growth otherwise when it is not a rainy season. Major threats are climate change and the draining of underground water for human use. Slow overall growth of plants makes them vulnerable to disturbance, and they have long recovery times. If part of their ecosystem is damaged, it takes a long time for them to recover. As we can see here, little to no rainfall throughout the course of the year, very high temperatures, hitting above 20 degrees Celsius, and we can see the distribution on our biome world map. All right, everybody, thank you and have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.